Well, greetings, friends. My name is David McLeod. Welcome to Life Mastery TV, your source for inspiration, empowerment, and fulfillment. I am your Life Mastery coach and author of the fabulous book, A Life to Die For. I'm also one of the co-authors of the best-selling series, The Wellness Universe Guide to Complete Self-Care. Today, we are embarking on episode number 202 for the Life Mastery TV program. This one is called The Nature of Integrity. So integrity is one of those things that everyone seems to understand, most people seem to value, but a surprisingly large number of people don't seem to practice very well. With all the corruption in high places and endless scandalous behaviors among some of our world leaders, is it any wonder that we question whether we really do understand integrity at all? When people are asked what integrity means to them, they often reply with something along the lines of abiding by a code of ethics, doing what I say I'm going to do, or making sure my actions are consistent with my words. Well, these are certainly valid statements, but I think as we're going to learn in this week's episode of Life Mastery TV, integrity goes a lot deeper than that. For today's discussion, I've invited back my good friend and associate, Sara Jane, to help shed some light on this important and highly relevant topic. Sara Jane is the master of voice, creator of Vocal Reiki, founder and main host of Gift of Healing TV, as well as an international speaker and author. As a master teacher and practitioner of Reiki and Vocal Reiki, Sara draws on her own life experiences and healing journey to support others with understanding and empathy. Please welcome Sara to the program. Come on board there, Sara. We'll love to see your face again. Oh, now you got to, there you go, unmute.
Thank you, David.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you so much for joining me. I know this was kind of a short notice kind of arrangement. A previously scheduled guest couldn't make it. And I'm so grateful that you were able to find the time to join me and to fill in. And not only that, but I think that you picked a topic which is really very, very relevant. I mean, this idea of, having our words and our actions in alignment, and people, making a commitment to come and do something and then not being able to follow through for whatever reason. There's a lot of that goes on in our world. How does integrity play out in your life?
For me, yes. If you say you're going to do something, unless there is something that is absolutely outside of your control, then if you said you're going to do it, you should. There's no two ways about that. But we do have to realize that life happens for some people. Yeah. And there are times when it doesn't matter how much in integrity you would love to be, you just can't. And I get that. I understand that. But I think this goes back to that honoring yourself of saying yes when you mean yes and no when you mean no. So don't go saying yes to something if what you really mean is no. Yeah. It's that give yourself time. If somebody asks something, can you give me half a day, 24 hours, couple of hours, whatever it is, let me get my head wrapped around it. That's my terminology. Let me see what's in the diary. Let me see what I can do. You can go back with a yes or a no, and you do not have to give a reason why.
That's right.
Because a reason why is usually an excuse. And are we really in integrity when we give an excuse? Why don't we just be honest? Sorry, no, can't do. Period. We don't need any more than that, because then we could end up in lies, and that's not in integrity. That's not who most of us want to be.
Right.
So I think...
Well, I don't know about you, but I have seen, I know, and I've even done this. I will admit right now that I have never I won't say that I have always been in integrity. I will say that integrity has always been a high value, let's say, I guess it's a value for me. That's the best thing I can describe it. And it's important. However, I'm not always in integrity. Let's face it, we're human beings. We make mistakes, we do things. But what I have noticed is I used to do this quite a bit before I started doing my personal growth work. And I would say yes in order to please someone. And then, you know, I'd be hemming and hawing about it behind the scenes, and I'd finally, in my mind, I'd come up with this amazing excuse about why I couldn't do it. And then I would go back to the person. I say, you know, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to do that because of this, why, and whatever. And how often are we on the other end, on the receiving end of that, and we say, don't worry about it, we'll work something else out. We let the other person off the hook. There is no accountability. There's no introspection. There's no truth that's actually being exchanged here. And that's the problem that I think we're seeing in our world today. Nobody's being called to account. People get to do whatever they want and get away with it. They get to lie and cheat and steal. And so corruption is rampant in our, especially in our political world. And we're wondering, well, how do we fix this? You know? And I know that part of how we fix it, how I fix it, is by doing my own work. How I fix it is by choosing to live my life in integrity. And so that's what we're here to talk about today. And I think the best thing we can do is we can talk by beginning with, well, what the hell is integrity anyway? What is it? And what do we mean when we talk about being in integrity? Let's just kind of discuss that for a little bit.
For me, it's honesty. It is being honest. Honesty doesn't, as I just said, honesty doesn't have to be about explanation. It is just being honest. It's that being asked to do something and thinking, that really isn't for me, that doesn't resonate with me. It's just honesty. Really sorry, not for me. And you say it immediately. You know, as I said just now, you ask that question, you make that comment. Can you give me a couple of hours? I'll come back to you in half a day. I'll come back to you in a day. I will come back and I will let you know. And you stick to your word. And I absolutely get what you're saying. Being the people pleaser I was for so many years, absolutely anything to please people. And I still am in that place of making suggestions and thinking afterwards, why the heck did I say that? But having said it, I will honor it unless there is that circumstance outside of your control that occurs, because we can't do anything about those. It's that thinking, go back to childhood. Your parents say, if you're really good, we'll go to the beach this weekend. And your parents have every intention of that. However, the car breaks down. Or suddenly work says to the father or the mother, you've got to come in. You know, they are circumstances outside of people's control. And it's very difficult for children because they just feel let down. And so it's almost a retraining of the adult from the experiences we've had in childhood of feeling let down when a promise has been made. And my grandmother always said, never make a promise you cannot guarantee to keep. And the truth of the matter is, you can never guarantee to keep a promise.
Right.
And so the integrity is, my aim is to do this for you. And I will be there, but it won't become hell or high water. You know, my intention, absolutely. And it is about intention, isn't it? It is about purest intention. So the integrity to me is about honoring what you say you are going to do. But there is always that proviso that in the majority of cases, there is no reason to not do it.
I honestly believe that hell or high water is just another excuse. I really do. Unless there's a cataclysmic earthquake that knocks your house down into a pit, really the kinds of events that will prevent you from honoring your word are pretty slim, pretty rare. I think about this all the time. I mean, I remember I was in a men's group, and we had an integrity / accountability process where all of the men were expected to be at the meeting on time. And even if you arrive 30 seconds late, you're still late. You're out of integrity with respect to that agreement, that commitment that you've made to the men. So, all right, well, we're not going to hang you for it. We're not going to. The reason we chose that, by the way, is to keep us aware of our integrity in all aspects of our lives. But here's what's true. I had people ask me on a couple of occasions, I'd show up 2 or 3 minutes late and 5 minutes late. That's fashionably late, And someone would ask me, well, let me ask you this. If you knew that there was a $1 million check waiting for you that would vaporize right at 7 p.m., could you have been here on time? And the answer invariably is yes, I could have been there had I known that. And that's what we're telling people. You see, well, in other words, what you're saying is the $1 million check would have made this meeting important enough for you to be here on time, but you let something else become more important. Isn't that true? And so the purpose of this exercise was to help us understand that we're making choices all the time, and all right, let's face it, you could be in a traffic situation that, there's a car accident in front of you, you simply can't move. Okay, fair enough. What are your options at that point? You're going to be late. So why not call somebody and say, this is what's happening. I am going to be late. Now I feel like I am in integrity because I have done everything I can to be there on time, and I have dealt with a situation over which I had no control. You see? So there's a way in which you can remain in integrity even if you don't completely honor the original agreement. And more than that, if let's say you and I make an agreement about something, and something comes up and I say, or something that I think is important tells me maybe that agreement that you and I made needs to be renegotiated. Well, that's perfectly reasonable too. Yeah. But you're not going to know about that unless I contact you and share what's going on for me. Then at that point, you can say, well, I'm afraid that's not going to work. I'm going to have to do something different. Or you can say, yeah, I can accommodate that. Let's still make it work. You see, it's all about communication. It's all about being honest, as you said, and it's all about recognizing when maybe I have taken on too much and I need to offload something. So it's all about, this integrity thing is really a powerful, powerful thing when you think about it. So I kind of went on there for a little bit. I'm sorry.
No, but it is important because, there are times when I sort of make, sort of time for meeting people, usually via the internet. And at least that means I haven't traveled somewhere for them not to turn up. But I must admit, you talking about, and we say that's okay. And I've had it numerous times where people just haven't shown up. And I will sit and wait for a period of time, probably far too long. But then I think, then I'll message them and say, I really do hope everything is okay. Because there is absolutely no point into going into anger or anything like that. Because I think that there's an element of, there's a certain amount of lack of integrity within yourself because you have no idea what's happened.
Exactly.
And I can't see the point of getting angry. Don't get me wrong. I'm not happy about the waste of my time. I'm really not. And I had this situation two, maybe 3 years ago, constantly making appointments to meet somebody online. And there so many things happened. Father was ill, something else happened, and it happened so many times. We did eventually get to talk. For some reason, I didn't give up. Neither did she. And the end result was I ended up by giving a talk online to a group of Indian doctors. So sometimes having that integrity of patience can really, because I had that caring way about me, because I persevered with it, it worked. But there are other times when it absolutely doesn't work.
Yes, that's true.
And it's people's attitude. It really is about the other individual's attitude to that.
Right. Yeah. And so, all right, so let's get back to our definition of integrity. Here's how I see integrity. Integrity means a kind of a sense of oneness, doesn't it? It means wholeness. It means integrated, if you like. And I've often thought about that, and I said, well, so what does that mean? I mean, we talk about our thoughts and our words being in alignment. Well, that's great. I can work with you, and I can, from your perspective, it may look like I'm always in integrity because my thoughts and my words are in alignment. But I could still be out of integrity myself because my feelings and my my emotions and my thoughts might not be in alignment with my words and my actions. I might be doing something contrary to my own good well-being, And so really, you have to have all four of those elements in alignment: your thoughts, your words, your actions, and emotions. So they need to be pointing in the same direction. You can't have this sort of thing, because that really screws things up. You know what I'm saying? So that's one way of knowing internally whether or not you are in integrity. Your thoughts, words, actions, and emotions are all aligned in the same direction. So that's the way I describe it. That's how I can tell. If any one of those things is off kilter, I notice it. My thoughts are saying, "Why are you doing this?" or something else like that. Or my feelings are kind of, I don't know how to describe it. Maybe I'm feeling anger or resentment about doing it. Well, how can that be an integrity if I'm doing something and feeling resentful about it? So you see, you can use all four of those items to tell you whether you are in integrity. And who are you in integrity with? What are you in integrity with? Well, there's only one thing you can ever be in integrity with, and that's yourself.
Agreed wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you can use other tools to help you maintain integrity, such as commitments, goals, agreements, and life purpose. Life purpose is like the big one. So what I like to tell people is, if you have a real clear image of what your life purpose is, then you can check those four elements and make sure that they're not only in alignment, pointing in the same direction, but also helping you move in the direction of your life purpose. That way, when you come to a decision, you can check in with yourself and say, is this in alignment with my life purpose? Will I feel in integrity when I do it? And then you can answer, as Sara already said, with a true yes or a true no. So that's the power of integrity. It is like, I think, one of the most powerful life mastery skills that you can learn.
Oh, I 100% agree, because it starts with self. Everything starts with self. And if you are doing something contrary to what feels right for you, then you're not in integrity with the most important person, yourself.
Right.
And so it has to start with, what have you asked me? How do I feel about that? Does it I use the word resonate a lot, maybe because I work with sound energy, but does it resonate with me? Do I really feel that is something good or something not good for me? It doesn't have to be bad. It's just not right for me. And so it is really, really important. You know, I love the fact that you sort of got the 4. It's just like really important but it is for me, the number 1 is self.
Yep.
How do I feel about it? And within those feelings, what are my thoughts about that? Because if my thoughts have gone running off on, no, not for this, not for that, not for the other, my thoughts are unlikely these days. I'm not saying in the past, because in the past I was too much of a people pleaser. But these days it's just like, I would just be so uncomfortable. My thoughts would be running off in all the wrong directions. And it would be just like, no, I can't do this. I haven't got to give a reason why. And it's being in the integrity of the saying no. Also, by giving yourself that time to think about it, there may be aspects that you think, yeah, I don't mind working with aspects of that, but I'm not going to say yes to it all. And there could be, but then you give the individual that choice. Sorry, not all of it, but I could do this, this, and this. Is that of any help to you? Knowing that it's potentially could actually be of benefit to you as well. And that's not being out of integrity, it's being in integrity. Because if you're supporting somebody else, and the integrity of no, because it just sort of suddenly went bang in my head, which is something I always think anyway, is when you're always saying yes, you're holding 2 people back, them and yourself. When you say no to somebody, it could actually be the biggest gift you could give them. And I think there's a saying going around along the lines of, I'd like to say thank you to everybody who said no to me. They made me do it myself. And that's where our growth comes in. And so when you are completely in integrity with self, saying your true yes and no, you are supporting 2 people to more fully live their lives and follow their path.
Yeah, I agree. The power of saying no is really, first of all, it's self-empowering because you're honoring the truth for yourself. And saying no doesn't mean forever. It might just be a no today. It might be a no in this moment. I might change my mind 5 minutes from now and find a yes somewhere within that thing. But I agree with you that we have to be truthful, honest, authentic, and empowered in our no in order for people to trust our yes. That's just a requirement. I mean, if I'm saying yes all the time, and especially when I'm not following through, then I am giving the message that you can't trust my yes. When I say no and I mean no, and then I say yes and I mean yes, you begin to trust me more. And that also is an aspect of integrity. Integrity is what allows me to create in you a sense of trust, that you know exactly who I am, how I'm going to show up, what I'm going to do. You know me. That's the beauty of integrity. It's a powerful, powerful tool.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, you know, we have got so much going on in this world. And as you said earlier, there's no two ways about that. The fact that there are times when we are not in integrity. And actually, the only person we're truly hurting is ourselves. And we've got this. We've got the politics of today. And there are people out there who've made promises that have actually carried them out. And there are those who've made promises and haven't. And it's very rare, actually, to find in a politician they carry their promises out. But there are those that have done it. But they've also made mistakes as well. So
that's very true. And love him or hate him, Donald Trump is such a person.
Oh, and
he has
done.
Yeah, he's done many things that he said he was going to do. Yeah, you're right. The number of politicians who actually follow through on their campaign promises are pretty small.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've had that here in the UK. You know, the politicians that said, right, we will get you out of the EU because the people voted it. And they just kick their heels. And love him or loathe him, Boris Johnson. He promised and he kept that promise. And for that, you know, he's done some stupid things, bless him. But for that, he has my respect. He kept his promise. And right. I think that's what we've got to think about. It's not just the Donald Trumps and the Boris Johnsons of this world. It's everybody. It's down to each of us. And if we wish to see changes in the world, be the change you wish to see. It's another saying. I love these sayings because actually, when you really read them, and they can be a great reminder, they can really be a great reminder of actually, we are in control of our own life, of how we perceive our life. Now, I know there may be a lot of people saying, we're not in control of our lives. Well, we are actually in control of our thoughts. You know, we are in control of our deeds and our actions. We have a massive amount of control.
That's right.
And don't blame everybody else for that lack of control.
Exactly right. Yeah. And the other thing is, the moment we start allowing ourselves to blame someone out there for the situation, we basically give our power away. We're saying, I have no power, I have no control, I have no ability at all to change anything. So I'm just going to let it be, and I'm just going to drink my drink and smoke my smoke and do my drugs and gamble my money and all the rest of it, and just kind of numb all of the thoughts and the pain and everything else, rather than just simply standing up and saying, enough. It's time for all of us to stand up and be the people that we were meant to be. You know, we're not going to see a better world unless we create it. So, you know, part of this idea of integrity also has to do with the concept of a code of ethics or a code of moral values. And so let's just talk a little bit about that. I mean, how important do you think that code of ethics, that code of moral values really is?
It's very important, because that's a bit about truth to self. It really is. But I think what we've got to realize is that we live in a world where there are many different cultures and religions. And the morals, moral ethics, moral values that people have from different cultures can be very, very different, because we are raised differently. Our perception of life is different. So just because I was raised the way I was raised doesn't mean that my values and ethics are right for everybody. But what is really, really important to be in integrity with yourself is to find those morals and values, ethics that feel totally right for you. If you were raised with a gun in your hand, it doesn't feel alien. I think a classic, okay, we'll go away from guns. A classic, I was learning, I worked with adults with learning difficulties for 10 years. And on one of the training courses, they sort of talked about a young girl with, I think it was Down syndrome or something like that. But she, other than the mother, she was the only girl and she was the youngest daughter, father, brothers. And she came from a household that swore a lot. There was a lot of bad language. And the day she first said the F word, everybody was laughing and cheering. Because it was what she grew up with, the bad language all around her. And she learnt it, and then she started using it outside of the family environment, where there are people like me who really don't like it. I'm really not a lover of bad language. I'm just going to turn a light on. And so that was her perspective of life. That was her learning. That was her reality. Just because it's not I remember turning around one day and we were at a swimming pool somewhere, and I hurt my bloody foot or something. And my father hit the roof with me. Because that is not how, I heard my father use that word, but that's not how I was raised, using that sort of language. And so what's your norm? What is normal, and whose definition is it anyway? So it has to be within what feels right for you. The way I live my life, things have changed, being brought up a Catholic and all those sort of type of things. Things have changed for me. And I don't feel I can resonate with any religion. Doesn't mean I don't believe. I just don't resonate with any religion. And especially not Catholicism in so many ways. Because it's that let go of everything you've learnt. And it very much is from childhood. And what feels right for you becomes your morals, becomes your standards, becomes your integrity to yourself.
Yeah, right. I think that, well, you've hit on a couple of really important points here, and that is the question of shared morals and shared ethics. One culture, a village, a family could have a different culture from another similar sized unit. And yeah, it's absolutely true that certain kinds of behaviors might be considered okay in one place and not okay in another place. However, I think one thing that we could probably all agree upon as a universal statement is that each of us, every single being, has the right to his or her own life in whatever way he or she sees fit, as long as there is no violation of someone else's rights. And I think as long as we can observe that, then really, what else is there? So if I decide to use language that you don't like, and that's my choice, I know that really the language isn't actually hurting you, but you might be uncomfortable with it. The question is, if you don't want that, is it okay for me to just continue doing what I do and have you make the decision to go somewhere else? Am I violating your rights by using that kind of language? That's the question. And I don't know what the answer is to that. I think that on some level we have to say that, maybe we don't have to say this, but it seems like freedom of speech should be protected, regardless of whether I like the speech or not, you know? And so I don't have to listen to somebody who's spouting a lot of garbage. I mean, the fact that I say it's garbage, that's just my judgment. From that other person's perspective, it may not be garbage, you see? So this is exactly the kind of thing that we have to deal with when we're talking about integrity and when we're talking about a set of moral values and a set of ethics, that sort of thing. So, you know, it's not going to be a question that we answer here definitively. In fact, I think it's a question that has been argued already for thousands of years. So it seems very unlikely we're going to come up with a solution. So
I think it's being true to yourself. When we did the messenger summits, and it was the second one, I'm fairly certain it was the second one at Yosemite, and Suzanne Evans, I think it was one of the speakers there, and a lady who used quite a lot of what I refer to as bad language. And she turned around and said along the lines of, and if there are those of you that in the audience who really don't like this language, then I'm not the person for you. And I thought, you're right, you're not.
that's right. Yeah.
But I remember Robert Evans, he loved her. I think he went and did courses and whatever with her, because Robert was the one who obviously, and I know that's a name that's not necessarily popular for a lot of people, but it's how you and I met. So, and that was back at the end of 2012, and I think we met at the one at the earlier that year as well. So,
right.
You know, so yes, we are not right for everybody. But we're not here to be right for everybody.
Right.
The important thing, the greatest ethics, the integrity, whatever words you want to use, are true to yourself. That you feel that everything you are doing comes from love within your heart. It's not about, yeah, because obviously we can go into self-preservation mode, but that's mind. Heart comes from a different place. And I think it's when the mind goes off in all those bits and pieces and off in tangents and all the rest of it, it's, can we come back to the heart? And that's where we come back to feelings. But yeah, it really is important to be true to you, whatever that may mean, because there are cultures that don't treat women well. There are people that don't treat those with learning and physical difficulties well. Different colored skin, different religions, different whatever. If you are different, and it's a matter of, what isn't that the saying? If only we would see souls. Because if we could see souls, we would only see the good in everything. And we wouldn't be in any form of judgment, because and that I suppose that is about being in integrity, is about staying out of judgment of others. And we obviously hope that people will stay out of an immediate judgment of us. But obviously, if you've just done something out of integrity with yourself, you're not going to help them.
Well, you know, that's interesting that you bring up the subject of judgment. I think judgment gets a bad rap, to be honest with you. I think that whenever somebody talks about being judgmental, they're always referring to negative judgments. They're not necessarily, they don't even consider the possibility of positive judgments. And yet, we are judging 100% of the time. We are always judging. We are making interpretations, we are drawing conclusions, we are We are interpreting the world around us, and that is a process of judgment, like it or not. So to say that you to try to get out of judgment, well, I believe that's an impossibility for humans. I mean, I've tried this little experiment with people, and I just as a simple example, just try standing on the beach one day and just watch the clouds. Now, I will bet my bottom dollar that you will not be able to watch the clouds for long before you say something like, "Oh, look, it looks like a rabbit," or "Oh, look, there's a flower." See, what you're doing is you're observing for sure, but now what you're also doing is you're putting your own filter onto it. You're putting your lens onto it. You're seeing something that you've seen before, a pattern that has existed in your life. This happens all the time. I mean, now this is going to sound a little crazy, but I go to the bathroom and I happen to sit down and I happen to look on the floor at a certain spot that maybe I've looked at before, but today I see someone's face looking at me. I mean, this happens all the time. And where does that come from? It's basically because our minds have this amazing ability to detect patterns even where perhaps no pattern exists. It's not really there. It's just an illusion that we make up because we've seen a shape like that before. You know? So we're constantly interpreting, constantly drawing conclusions, constantly having judgments. And my objective with people is not to stop judging, but simply to be aware of the judgments and to ask yourself, is that true? That's all. Is that true? It might be a real interesting judgment, and there might be a whole story that comes about as a result. And so your mind gets all entertained by this amazing drama that you create. And that's kind of fun, I admit. I like doing it. I do it all the time. But when I let myself slip into that drama in my head, that's when I kind of fall asleep and I start allowing the drama in my head to run my life rather than being aware of the fact that I have a drama in my head and just find a way to let it run its course and just move on. So I choose not to make judgment a bad thing. I simply observe it. I say, okay, so there's a judgment. I'm judging something this way. I'm judging something that way. And what does that mean? Because often, so if let's say I have a judgment about you, more often than not, the judgment that I have about you is really about something within me that I'm seeing showing up on you. It's a projection. I believe that every judgment is a projection. Not all projections become judgments, but most do. So every judgment is a form of projection. And when we can understand that, then we become clearer about who we really are. And we realize the amazing power that we have within our minds to create everything in our world. I think judgment has taught me a lot, actually.
And very valid, David. Absolutely very valid. I suppose, yes, when I think of judgment, I think of the negative. But I've looked out at the clouds and I've seen a dragon's head, sort of, or I see angel wings,
Exactly.
So absolutely.
Yeah, and so it's not wrong and it's not bad. It's just what it is. And this is something else that people tend to forget. I like to look at the world this way. I said, there is all that is. And then there's what I make up about it. There's the story I make up, the judgment I make up, the hallucination I have about it. Hallucination is a great word. It reminds me that I'm making it up in my head. But you see, all of us do it, but most of us aren't aware that we do it. And that's not a bad thing either. It's just where we are right now. It's, what I think is happening in the world, and possibly because of all the dark stuff that we're seeing, what's happening is more and more people are starting to wake up, are starting to elevate themselves out of their illusion and into the truth of what's going on in the world. I just said a bad word, the word truth. What's truth? That's another thing that, we can have a whole conversation about that, by the way.
Absolutely, because your truth is not going to be my truth. Your experiences in life aren't my experiences in life. And that's what I love about doing programs like this, because we can share from our different experiences, our different perspectives, and it is different and it's brilliant. But there's an underlying agreement. And I sort of remember listening to a conversation that Enolia and I were having. I was listening to what she was saying. And I mean, I was really listening, and I do try to really listen. And I suddenly thought, she is saying exactly what I've just said. She's just saying it from a different perspective. It was almost if I'd said something from the inside out and she'd said it from the outside in, sort of. But if you weren't truly listening, you'd think we disagreed with each other.
Right. And that's what people often refer to as violent agreement. Yeah.
So it's also about and integrity comes into, or listening comes into integrity.
Sure.
And it's listen to understand, not to reply. And there are times when I'm listening because of all the programs I do and you and I do together, etc., etc. There are times when I'm listening and the mind goes, and it's just like, no, be quiet, listen.
Right. Yeah.
And it's really important. And that thought may slip away. I know that thought will come back if it is important for it to be spoken. And if it's not, it won't.
Right. And that's another thing. It might not be important to be spoken today. Maybe it'll come back next week. And in that time, it might make more sense to speak it.
Yeah. Oh, there is so much in life, and it is about getting rid of the box. The box doesn't exist. It's about being open-minded. All these sayings that are out there, knock down the walls, they don't actually exist. It is about that openness. Am I prepared to listen? It doesn't mean I have to agree with everything you say. It doesn't mean I have to take on board everything you say and start thinking the way you think, because it's really, really important that we are ourselves. And I'm just trying to think what the saying is. So something about be yourself, everybody else is taken. And I love that. I think that is brilliant, because we are here to be our unique self. Are you comfortable with yourself? And if you're not, why not? What is it you would like to grow from? I don't really like this word change, because it suggests there's something wrong with you. And it's nothing wrong with you. It's just that there's something that you've grown out of. It served its purpose. All these sayings that are out there, overused words, but they are so true. And if you are going to be in true integrity with yourself, you will take that, the thought, the mind. There are two lots of types of thought. There's the thought of really thinking things out. And there's those thoughts that go running wild. So thinking is important, It's just, what type of thinking are you doing? And the really thinking about things, having listened to things or read things and found a way of understanding it, but you're going to be understanding it from your perspective and your experiences. Let the mind really take on board things, because those things will speak to your heart. When your mind goes off at a tangent, that is not something that's going to resonate with your heart and isn't necessarily going to be anything like where you should be for being integrity. So I think mind and thought, we could go into that as a conversation as well. But that was something that came to me, is there are two kinds of thought and of thinking. And if you're really thinking, but the other is, I suppose, thought and off at a tangent.
Right. Yeah, it's the whole notion of integrity is really, really deep. It's not just a one and done kind of quick explanation. We could really dive into this probably for many, many hours at least. Here's what I believe. When you give in to the fears of the ego mind and you pretend to be someone other than your true self in order to gain approval or make other people happy, well, you end up losing yourself in the bargain. But when you remember, embrace, and honor the truth of who you really are, without apology, mind you, and you do that in every single moment, every moment, then what happens is you begin to really live, and life becomes a true adventure of joy and fulfillment. In my mind, that is the ultimate form of integrity. I think that's the form of integrity that all of us should strive for. I use the word should in the sense that if we want to have the best lives possible, that's one way of doing it.
Yes. I'm saying what I've said before. It starts with self. It has to start with self. It isn't about, right, do I have to copy this person? Oh, this person's liked, I'm going to copy them. It's you are an amazing individual. Let yourself be that individual. Yes, we are all connected. Yes, we are on a higher level. But we are here to be this individual, to have the experiences that we're having. I don't necessarily believe in learning, it's remembering. Sort of, and I've said that before, but be yourself. We're not doings, we're beings. So it's being true to what feels right. And providing we aren't hurting anybody else, and I mean really hurting somebody else, that's saying no to somebody, oh, you are selfish, etc., etc. No, you're not hurting them. You're not letting them down. They may be disappointed. Well, it probably consider a stronger word than that, to be perfectly honest. But you are actually honoring them in a way they don't understand at that point in time, because you're honoring.
This is important. I'd like to just say something about this, because part of what's going on in our world is that we are seeing people holding back from speaking the truth for fear of hurting someone's feelings. It's now become almost a crime to say something that might hurt someone's feelings. And the fact of the matter is, I have no control over your feelings whatsoever. You are responsible for your feelings. No one else is. And if I say something to offend you, then maybe that's an opportunity for you to look at what your own triggers are all about. Where do they come from? What do they mean? How are you allowing them to run your life? I'm not going to go out of my way to deliberately trigger you, but I'm also not going to walk on eggshells to avoid triggering you. That doesn't serve me. It also doesn't serve you, by the way. So I think we need to take responsibility for all of our thoughts, words, actions, and emotions. As I mentioned, I think I mentioned this right at the beginning, which are the components when they're in alignment. They're the components that tell you whether you're in integrity or not. So if you're getting triggered by something, maybe there's a way in which you are out of integrity on some level. If you're getting triggered, what is it that's triggering you? Is it something I reminded you of somebody or something in your past? Is it even possible for me to push your buttons? Some people would say, yes, of course it is. People push my buttons all the time. Yeah, well, that's really not true. The truth is, you are in a situation where you get triggered easily by certain words, actions, behaviors from other people. But here's what's interesting. If you are honest with yourself, there are probably people out there who can say exactly the same thing to you, and you do not get triggered. Why is that? Because the people who are doing the thing that triggers you are different forms of energy, and they're reminding you of different kinds of things in your past. The one who triggers you is reminding you of someone who may have hurt you when you were a child. It's not that this person is actually hurting you. He or she is simply reminding you of someone who may have hurt you when you were a child. Keep that in mind and take responsibility for it. Do your own work. Heal yourself.
Yeah. And remember that if something is triggering you, actually, it's up to you to say, no, not going to let this trigger me. I'm not giving you the power to trigger me. So yes, absolutely, healing of self, because I work with the inner child, because I support people with healing that hurt, pain, and trauma from younger years. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And sometimes, folks, you require help to do that. Sometimes you can do it for yourself.
Yeah.
The child is looking to you as the adult. You are your own rescuer. There's a quote by Alice Little, and I can't remember it offhand, but it's just like, basically, as a child that's hurting, you're looking for that knight in shining armor. What you didn't realize was it's you as an adult. You are your rescuer, and you can support and heal those parts of you that are still hurting.
That's beautiful, Sara, and I know you've got some great wisdom, but we're getting close to the top of the hour here. I want to wrap this up, and I want to give you, like a couple of minutes to just share from your heart how you feel people can benefit from developing a powerful sense of integrity for themselves.
Love yourself. It's one of the things that came to me in a session with somebody. I am the love of my life. And when you feel that love for yourself, you can bring so much more to everybody else. Everything you are looking for, everything you are seeking, everything you desire is inside of you. And when we are fully in love with ourselves, fully respect ourselves, honor ourselves, are true to ourselves, are in integrity with ourselves, value ourselves, it doesn't matter what other people think. at the beginning of my wake up call, or actually the beginning of my actions following my wake up call, I said I was a people pleaser. And it suddenly dawned on me one day, why am I worrying about what other people think about me when they're not? We are too much in our heads, worrying about others, worrying about things we cannot control, when we are fully in tune with who we are. Not who people have told us we are, but who we are. And yes, as I said earlier, and I've heard it time and time again, it is about unlearning everything that we've learned about ourselves. And maybe we have got to start a little bit from scratch, but I've done that. And it's so worth doing. So if you are scared about, but if I let go of these things, what am I going to find? You're going to find you underneath all of that rubbish. You really are.
Right.
And in integrity, you are an amazing being, and you have so much to offer. With many of us, our healing journey is our gift to everybody else. Is your gift hiding under all that rubbish that it's time for you to let go?
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Sara, for being here and for sharing your beautiful shining face and your smiling wisdom and all your love. And thank you all for watching today's program. Remember, you can catch the recordings of this and all my other shows on my website at lifemasterytv.com. Integrity is one of the most important and valuable life skills you can learn. When you really understand it and practice it everywhere in your life, you'll be amazed at what you bring forth in the world. I'd like to leave you with my life mastery mantra as a reminder and something that you can practice on a daily basis. It goes like this. I gratefully forgive the imperfect being I have been in the past. I gratefully accept the magnificent being I am right now. I gratefully welcome the evolved being I am becoming in each new moment.